when I was in college, and I had a chance to play basketball and baseball in college, which was very cool. And we would go down and use a racquetball court, which was like a totally enclosed court. I mean, there was a window way in the upper left corner, and there were two courts. So one had an upper right corner, and the other one had an upper left corner because they're in opposite parts of the basketball gym. And so we would go down and hit baseballs in there, and we used a rubber ball, and didn't know anything about racquetball except that it was a room. It's an enclosed room, so we used it as a batting cage.
Okay, my question is, what year was that, and were those handball courts or racquetball courts?
No, racquetball courts. Well, same racquetball court and handball court, same thing.
People were playing racquetball already.
They were playing racquetball with a sawed-off tennis racket, kind of wood racket. They were down there. There were some handball, but they were mostly racquetball, and they were mostly the professors would come down there and their off time. So we went down there, and I was kind of a switch hitter. So, and my roommate was a baseball player, so he would pitch to me, and I would bat left-handed the long way and right-handed the long way, and we would do it diagonally. And so, excuse me, whenever the racquetball guys came down, I remember who they were, Jack Sobek, some of those guys, would come down, and then they'd knock on the door. And it was a small little door, I mean, like 3 feet. Everybody had to crawl underneath it in there. And every time we heard them coming, we went, damn it, no, we can't hit baseballs anymore. So that was my first introduction. And it wasn't even a racquetball court. We just found a room so that we could take batting practice. Because in Minnesota, in March, I mean, there's probably snow on the ground, and we got to get ready to go on a southern baseball trip. So that's how I first got involved with it. When I actually started to play was actually when I realized I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, and in the summer we played in some really good collegiate leagues that were at like AA level, which, it's like AA, AAA, major leagues, so we were kind of getting halfway up the ladder here. And I realized that I was not going to make it. I realized I had perfected imperfection, and really, that was between my junior and senior year of college. And I went back and I realized, you're going to play your senior year of basketball and you're going to play your senior year of baseball, and they want to sign you, and you can sign, and you're going to go play Class A ball, and you're going to get on the buses. And the guy told me, he says, I know who you are. He says, you're going to be a good player. You'll probably play at A. You may get up to AA. And you're going to probably be a really good organization guy. You're going to be like a good coach, and then you'll probably go in the coaching route and stuff like that and work your way up wherever you work your way up to, And I went, but I want to play baseball. I want to be a pro at something. Baseball mainly, obviously at 5'8" and can't jump, it's going to be basketball. It's a concession right off the bat, And so I realized I wasn't going to make it. And boy, I tell you, when you start playing baseball at 2, and then like at 21 or 22, there's this realization you're not going to make it, but nobody around you realizes you're not going to make it except you. Your mom and dad think you're still going to make it. Coaches think you're still going to make it. But when I went out to the Basin League and I faced some of these pitchers, and I'm telling you, I barely freaking saw the ball. I mean, it was coming so fast. I hadn't seen 95, 96 before. And I went like, my God, how am I going to hit it? I can't barely freaking see it. And that's when I made that conclusion, so I still had this competitive, crazy juices of wanting to be a pro at something, and so when I got done, these guys were playing racquetball. They were playing paddle ball with a wooden paddle and a slower ball. And I kind of got involved with that a little bit. And, then they found out the racquetball guys. Those same guys that came and watched us play college basketball, later on they go, hey, why don't you come down and join us, because I was in grad school, why don't you come down and join us to play racquetball? Well, okay, we'll try it. Kind of liked it, kind of found out it was an individual sport, which I'd never been involved with before, so I wasn't dependent on anybody more. I controlled my own destiny, and I kind of liked that, and then just started to play in St. Cloud, where I went to school. They had a St. Cloud Elks Club, kind of an organization. And they had 2 courts out there, and a lot of guys played out there. So I joined that and went out there at night and played. So I taught during the day, coached a little bit, and then went out there at night and played. And we had pretty good players, because Schmidtke was from Wisconsin. You know, he was like a national champ. He had beat Brumfield and those guys, or Garfinkel, whoever those guys were he beat. You know, so, excuse me, high quality was right around the corner here. And other guys, because if he's around the corner, then other guys play him. Then they get pretty good, you know. And so my partner was pretty good, and we just kind of worked the way up. But I mean, I remember going to the first tournament, and I entered C, you know, and pretty soon you did halfway decent. And then they go, well, you know, you should go to B, you know, kind of do good in B, and then you kind of go up to A. You know, you just kind of work your way up the ladder. And but I found out I really kind of liked it. Didn't really know what I was doing, you know. I mean, played doubles with that partner, my partner, but then we played against guys that were standing in the way all the time and this and that, so we didn't really learn how to play, but really kind of liked it, went to some tournaments, became pretty good in that region, the two Dakotas, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, kind of worked your way up to maybe get in the top 4 of that group, you know, usually in the semis, maybe in the finals, not often get knocked out in the quarters because, you know, we kind of hung in there pretty good, you know, so that got me to a pretty good level, you know. But then what happened was, but I still wanted to get really, really good at it, but I didn't know how, you know, and obviously following the baseball route didn't work so good for me, you know. So when they had a national invitational in Minnesota, Brumfield, Kenny Wong, Surratt, Glacier, Zeitman, the whole group showed up. All the guys that had kind of been in the loop, you know, they all showed up. And as soon as so we went down to it, obviously. None of us were in it. We weren't invited. And so we went down and watched, and I watched all the guys, you know. Now, I also looked at it a little bit more maybe analytically, because I just followed everybody telling me how good baseball was going to work out, and it didn't work. So I came with a little bit more of a discerning eye. You know, I'm watching this for me right now, because everybody protected me before. It didn't work too good. And so I watched all the players play, you know, and Brumfield stood out like a sore thumb. I mean, it was like, there's 16 guys here, and there's 15 that are kind of trying to beat this guy, and this guy looks like he just has it under control, you know. And it wasn't so much, you know, I mean, the mannerisms and the antics, any of that kind of stuff. This was like I was just watching racquetball, and he was watching racquetball. He was obviously playing, but he was watching the other players hit. He was moving back. He was cutting off balls. He was playing the back court. He was playing the front court. He had all the shots. See, because when we started playing, I listened as a good Midwestern person. You listened to your guys above you. Nobody cut the ball off. Everybody let it come to the back wall. Everybody tried to kill it. Now, being kind of fast from basketball and everything, I was pretty quick. So they go, don't let the other guy kill it. Get up and dig everything up, keep it going, you know, don't let him score, instead of sitting back and playing off a left-up shot, which I later found out from Charlie is the only way to do it, you know. And so, excuse me, I came into it with some qualities that were different than what he did. And watching him go through that group, and he won that tournament, go through that group, I go like, okay, you're the guy here, you know. And I mean, it was so crazy. We'd never gone anyplace in Minnesota. We have a farm. We have all these cattle. We have all these, you know, pigs, all this land. And you don't just run off to the golf course and play. You don't run off on Florida vacations, you know. No place. You know, you just work all the time. So as crazy as it sounds, I went down to the draw sheet, which was now not digital, but the old draw sheet where you see the names going to the right, you know. And I looked and I go like, where's this dude live? You know? And I go, San Diego. You go like, okay, where in the hell's that? You know? I'd been to California and I barely got to Wisconsin, you know? And so I said, you know what? I'm going to play this guy. I'm getting out of here, you know? And I was teaching school, You know, I was an assistant coach at basketball at a good public school. You know, my parents could see this as be going, oh man, you know, I'll be able to watch our son coach a state tournament basketball team. It's going to be so cool and this and that. But I still inside me go, I got to compete. I got to try to be a pro at something, you know. I was about ready to invent a marbles tour or something, you know. I didn't really give a damn what I was going to play. But I was going to play for money, no matter what, you know. And so all of a sudden, it was kind of weird because when I went out, you know, so all of a sudden I said, you know, I told my mom, I said, I'm quitting school, teaching school, you know, and they go like, really? You know, I said, I'm going out there, you know. And crazily, my cousin lived in Pacific Beach in San Diego. So that was kind of a good thing. But I went out to play, quit teaching, went out there, and there was no money. This was strictly amateur. So I must have wanted to get pretty good, pretty bad, you know. And I went out there and didn't have a lot of money, but didn't have debt, you know. And so I went out there and then I went down to play Charlie, you know, as much as I could. But I mean, I remember, you know Haber. Paul was down there, you know, tough dude, you know. The first night I got into San Diego, I went down there and go, I'm going to join the club. It's in Pacific Beach, man. This is going to be cool. It's all going to be good, you know. I went down there and said, I want to join. It was like, what, $30 a month, $1 a day, whatever it was, you know. And I said, I want to join. Found out I was a racquetball guy. He wasn't too fond of racquetball guys. He wanted everybody to play handball, you know. So I said, I want to join, you know. And he goes, nope, we're not taking members. No, you can't join. I go, what? I said, isn't this where Brumfield and all these guys play? And he goes, yeah. I said, like, I want to join. He goes, you can't join. You're not joining. I go, like, okay. A long way to travel here to not be able to join, you know. And so finally, the next morning I went there when, you know, because Paul worked later in the day, you know, whatever it was. And so I saw Bob Gorman's there the next morning. And I walked right over to him right away and go like, hey, I was here last night and this guy was really kind of harsh and whatever, you know. And he goes, oh, that was just Haber. He's just giving you a hard time. You know, he says, hey, play your $30 in here and, you know, play and whatever it was. So then I had a bicycle, no car yet, never brought a car out, bike from Oakwood Apartments to PB, tried to play Charlie as much as I could, you know, and was fortunate enough that he would play. He would play me, you know, and I got to play. And, you know, obviously, you know, when you start playing a guy who's really, really good, you start to hit the same shots he does, you know. And I remember, too, I said, this is all happening really fast. I said, you know, I got to catch baseball, it took 20 years to play out to get to the not making it deal. Okay, this is going to have to go a little faster than this, you know. And so I realized I went and bought a camera. And in old, you know, the old reel-to-reels where the tape would go from here to L.A., you know, I mean, and it was a Sony thing, and the only thing you could ever do is pause it, you know, and you'd shoot footage of it and this and that. But I videotaped them playing matches and stuff. And I'd go, and those guys would all go out at night, you know, they'd do their thing, whatever, you know, they're at this restaurant or wherever it is, and I'd just sit home and watch the video and just go, I got to copy you, you know. I mean, I was getting to the point where I say, you know, should I check out how you tie your shoes? Because maybe that would help here, you know. So, you know, whatever, you know. And I just started to do the same things, you know, and then I started to see, but he would play me, so I could see this shot working on me. So then pretty soon I started to try to hit that same shot and found out it really started working on others. It was hard to work against him because he was a level higher than me. You know, it's like I couldn't analyze his weaknesses because I wasn't that good yet, but he could analyze my weaknesses because he already felt really good in his skin. He knew what he could do. He spent his time analyzing me. I yet was not at the point where I was so secure with me and my knowledge in my game that I could start to analyze him. So all I was doing is trying to duplicate him, emulate him, do the same thing. And finally, you know, we were getting into some pretty good rallies. You know, I'm going like, I'm hanging here pretty good, you know. And then I'd go play other people, other guys who were at the club. And all of a sudden I'd put that same, I mean, basically his game in my body against other guys and go like, whoa, this is working. I mean, this is crazy working. But see, we never cut the ball off in Minnesota. When a ball came through the middle of the court, on one bouncer in the air, we let it go by, take it off the back wall. Well, obviously, as you got into this more, every time I take it off the back wall, I can set up, it's all kind of cool. My defender slides right into a good coverage position, so the pressure is more on me to make the shot. Whereas if you cut balls off, you catch your opponent more on sides, you take advantage of cutting it off and hitting it away from them, and all of a sudden it flip-flops. It's kind of like playing tennis where you strictly play ground stroke, from the baseline versus starting to serve and volley, Now, modern day tennis has such powerful rackets that guys can hit winners from the baseline, In the old days when it was a wood racket, you'd see Macro and these guys up in the net hitting volleys and stuff like that. But so, tennis has kind of overcome that. But I mean, in racquetball, when I started to cut the ball off and then take backcourt shots and center court shots, because even when you shot a video of us way back when, all right, 46 years ago, which is a long time ago, okay, as we were watching it, I saw myself really looking to want to cut the balls off all the time. So, and that was in 1974, all right? I moved out in 1973. So it just took me 1 year, depending on when I moved out and the date and month and whatever it was. But just from a calendar year, 73, 74, I had made serious mental strategy changes in how to strategize and how to play, which made a world of difference. I mean, a crazy difference. Because, when we did that thing, and then ironically, just that next year, which I had no idea they were doing this, it kind of went pro. And all of a sudden they go, well, we're going to start playing for money. I go like, dude, all right. Now I don't have to start that marbles tour, And so they started to play, and I was playing pretty good. So when we started those first tournaments, now I was kind of in that semis, but it was like a United States semis, not like a Minnesota 5-state area semis. I'm going like, plus I had a game now. Before I didn't have a game. Now I have a game. It's not as good as Brumfield's, but maybe not quite as good as Keeley's right there. But when you're playing Brumfield every day and another guy's not playing Brumfield every day, I'm telling you, when you get into a tournament and I do the same good stuff that Brumfield is kind of showing me, not talking to me, but just showing me how to do it, that other guy who's not playing Brumfield or me or whoever it is every day, and we're playing 3 games to 21, and I'm running the beach like 10 miles a day, so I'm in pretty good shape, so I don't really give a damn how long this match will last. It wants to go 5 hours, we'll go 5 hours. I'll still be standing. That we weathered a lot of storms. You can hit ceiling balls, you hit a lot of shots here, keep people on the court, and by sometimes the middle of the third game, it wasn't so much a matter of you beating them, it was a matter of they still had the capability of standing up. They were so tired. So it was really interesting time and how it kind of evolved, and kind of we kept that thing going for it's Keeley, Surratt, Brumfield, and myself. We were kind of a foursome in there. Tough to reckon with right there. Keeley was so good as a shot maker, is smart, Surratt was more the dynamic diver, young kid, diving all over the place, rolling it out with his backhand, just crazy stuff, and if you didn't know how to play him, really intimidating, and then you're playing Charlie, who was like the mental intellect. It was like he had it all, but then he also could add mannerisms to it and get in your head if that was kind of a necessary part of the strategies, So it was really fun. And plus there's a lot of other good guys right below there. But it was a big deal to be in that kind of competition, huge. So it was it was a pretty cool, entry in,
When did you get the contract with Ectalon, and when did they make the racket with your name on it?
Oh man.
Keeley never had his own signature racket.
But I think that, but Keeley kind of did stuff his way, in a way. If he had gone to Drake and said, I want my name on a racket, Drake would have done it. That was just Steve's way of, other guys would have his name on, their name on some rackets. He went a different route. Like he didn't need it. He didn't have to have that, But there were two groups obviously there, the Ectalon group and the Leech group. And there was a lot bigger quantity in the Leech group than there was in the Ectalon group, and I was an Ectalon player in Minnesota. So that was the racket that everybody used out there, And so when I came out here, and started to get into a tournament and did kind of good, then all of a sudden, other people are kind of starting to, there's only two groups in town, Ectalon and Leech. So if you're becoming one of the better players, one of the two groups is going to find you. And if you're already using Ectalon, I was a pretty loyal person. I wasn't looking for the best, quickest deal. And so I would go out to Ectalon. Bud Held, great guy, it started that thing, good morals, the whole deal. And so I went out there just to get some rackets, But then if you play all day, I went out there and I thought, well, this is kind of cool. They're making the rackets, and they had a gram scale so we could weigh them and stuff like that and this and that. And they were happy to get them to you because you were kind of doing good, And I remember it was so crazy because I went out there and then I'd hang around and move boxes. I was a farm kid. You work. If boxes had to be moved, you moved the boxes. You didn't look about, if I moved the boxes, will you pay me? It wasn't one of those things. And so I helped out there, and then I'd leave and go play racquetball, and I may go back there and weigh more rackets the next day and help a little bit more, So pretty soon, Bud would come out and go, hey, you're around here a lot. And I said, well, it's fun, so whatever. And then finally I was out there a lot, and he goes, we need to pay you. And I go, no, you don't have to pay me, I said, this is good. I'm just playing racquetball. I'm fine. He said, no, we need to pay you. So I remember the first time he says, we're going to give you a couple $100 a month, and I said, but you don't have to do that, and he goes, but I want to do that, and then he did it, and then I think the next time, so then I started to maybe do some things, because Schmidtke he was the player. I think Glacier was a player. DC was a player, but I don't know how many other guys. That whole group was over with Drake and Leach and Steve and Keeley and Surratt and Brumfield, and the whole group was over there. Wagner and everybody, And so then I started to do some more with those guys, because I started to win a little bit. And they go, well, you got to promote somebody here, So I started to get promoted. Went on brochures and stuff like that. And then I remember the next time, then I got. The next thing, then he says, well, we're going to give you $1,000 a month. I go whoa, okay. Now we're exceeding my teaching salary right now. And I just came out here to kind of try to get good. I didn't think there was going to be money involved in this thing, And then, so which really helped, But then I'd go to tournaments. They paid for everything. They paid for your travel, your lodging, your room, and did everything. And pretty soon your picture was on a brochure. All of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. But the only thing I still cared about was trying to be good at racquetball. I just wanted to get good. I just wanted to get as good as I could possibly get. And then after that, then you start to do more with them, and I will say the Phillips organization, did you ever know Bob Phillips or Susie or any of that group? They were really good. They were really good at promoting Bud Held's product. Really good. They were not cheap. Okay, so now I was involved more in the inside the business a little bit. I kind of knew what was going on, and but they promoted it great. When they did a brochure, they did it great. Whenever they did stuff, they did it great. And they were a huge part of that. So I kind of got to know those guys because I was one of the guys they were promoting. Schmidtke was kind of falling back a little bit, and I was kind of surfacing in a little bit more. So I was kind of like their little hot commodity for a while, and then that was really good. And then I know the next contract he came to me with was way better, and I go like, oh my God, this is like crazy good, but then that's when Bob Phillips came to me. He says, because he knew I was a school teacher. I mean, he knew that I cared. He knew I could teach somebody. He knew I could do more than one thing here, and at that time, when you could do more than one thing, you were valuable, because they only had to have one guy. One guy could do 7 different things, and I was a farm kid, so it's like, do 7 things? That's like doing 7 things on the farm. We do it every single day. That wasn't a big deal to me. But that's when he came to me, and he says, you need to write a book, because that's how they thought. They're marketers, and I go like, no, what? No, me write a book? Come on, and then he lined up the meeting with writers and this and that, and he was, Bob was the guy behind that, which now I look at it, and when the first book came out, and Terry and I were on the cover of it, and it was actually in print. It was actually a book, with your name on it, you went like, I went, whoa, this is like cool. This is really cool. And it immediately gave us so much credibility, it's kind of crazy, freedom of the press. You can write anything, it doesn't have to be true or false, but people give you so much credit for writing a book. Plus that book, I'd learned how to play through Brumfield. So the book made sense because I was doing it was just my interpretation of great racquetball through Brumfield. So it wasn't like I didn't reinvent the wheel. I didn't even create the wheel. I'm a pretty damn good copier of the wheel, And so book made sense, but then they said, well, you should do some camps. You should do a camp. I go, okay. Kind of coached, taught school, stuff like that. That's the easy part right there. So we'd go out in the summer, start doing a camp.
Steamboat Springs, Colorado, right?
Steamboat was one of the early. South Bend, Indiana was the first one. I remember the first one. Then we got the Steamboat, and Steamboat was really fun. But then you kind of had a camp going, you had a book going, so in the summertime, I would work doing camps where mostly everybody else took off, So if I'm out there, then I'm pretty much in tune with it, helping the people. Now you're building up another whole group of people that are supporting you. And so it was, you were kind of on call 24/7. There was not much relaxing. But then again, that was an easy thing to do because I was used to farming.
But at that point, you were already with Terry, right? You had a relationship. Weren't you having kids by then?
No.
Not yet.
When the books came out, we weren't married when the books came out.
Okay, so you were basically a single guy, and you were just completely focused on racquetball.
I was, but I was getting successful. I didn't make it to the majors in baseball, but as small as racquetball was, and it didn't seem that small at the time because it was pretty cool to be involved because everybody thought it was pretty cool. But I was kind of making the majors of racquetball, and I was competing by myself, which I kind of liked. Never played an individual sport before. Always team, always dependent on team, always dependent on coaches. Sometimes not such a good coach, sometimes a great coach, So depending on coach, depending on teammates. There's a lot of variables to get to success. Individually, it was all yours. So when you had a high, cool. When you lost, pretty low. But it was fun to compete. That's why I look back on it right now and I go, I always wanted to do this. I always wanted to golf. As much as we played baseball on the farm, you're just making a point to the work ethic on the farm. This is honest to God truth. With all the cattle and stuff like that, we were up at 6 o'clock in the morning, only child, 6 o'clock in the morning, and basically you're working till 10 o'clock at night, and you go to bed and you get up at 6 o'clock the next morning, unless when we were playing baseball at night. So for me to do multiple tasks for Echelon was like way easier than getting in a grain bin and hardly being able to breathe. way easier than baling 1,000 bales of, hay a day. I mean, I'm competing and having fun, and you guys think that with all these tasks, it's really like work. I go like, this is not work. This is like fun, So that was kind of that was a good part of it.